So welcome and thanks for being here. And I've probably got echo going on. There we go. Fix that for the Zoom people. Before we get started, we've got Crystal from North Star Title that's going to just kind of introduce herself for a second. So,
Sweet. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Kind of met everybody who's here in person. Hi, everybody on Zoom. I'm Crystal, one of the lead escrow officers at North Star Title. Just a little bit about myself. Been doing escrow for 14 years, fourth generation in the business. So I have a lot of knowledge. So if you guys have any questions at all about the title process, escrow process, even on the lending side, I can help out too. My door is open always. So please feel free to reach out. We can go over on how to read a PR one-on-one, how to read a CD one-on-one. So I'm here to support you guys however needed. I know the All Valley team, for those of you in California, are also available to help answer your questions and be part of your team. So please, again, stop by and ask your title team any questions, and I will see you guys later.
Perfect.
Thanks. Okay.
Thanks much.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. So today's going to be about lead generation. So I got a couple of things that I'm going to touch on here as we get going. Let me get the screen pulled up here and we'll get rolling. So I had mentioned to you guys yesterday, I talked and told you a little bit about working at the bank and how I had decided I wanted to come into real estate. And so I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit more about that story today as a prelude to what we're going to talk about, because it made a pretty big impact on my business as well. So let me get lights off here for a sec. And my screen share going here. All right, here we go. So I mentioned to you that I was working at the bank. I decided that I wanted to get into real estate because I wanted to have control and make money according to the amount of effort and things that I put into the business. And so I had an uncle that was a builder, and I was talking to him one day. I called him up and just said, hey, I'm thinking about doing real estate. And what do you think about that? Now, at the time I was working at the bank, I was making, I think, somewhere around $35,000 a year as the manager of that department. And I was talking to my uncle and said, what do you think? And he said, well, I have 4 agents that sit my model homes, and he said 2 of them made over 60,000 the year before, and 2 of them had made over 100,000. And at the time I was making like 35. So I was like, sounds good to me, I'm in. And so I went, signed up for real estate school, got done with real estate school. I went to my uncle and I said, okay, ready to start. I got my license. And he said, well, I've already got 4 agents that sit my models. And so I can't really go to them and say, taking time away from you to give to my nephew. So that, I'll let you know if somebody ever quits, but I can't really do anything for you. Well, see, I just assumed that, well, it's my uncle, he would have to hire me, but he didn't. And so I said, well, what do I do then? And he told me to go and talk to my cousin, his son. He said, go talk to him and see what he thinks. So I went and talked to my cousin and said, what do you think? And he said, well, there's two approaches you have to go in real estate. And he said, one is you go for a high split, no training, or you go for a lower split, which back then everybody started. Nobody ever started different than a 50-50. So he said, you go to a low split, but you get training. And I said, well, what would you do? And he said, well, I'm an appraiser now because I chose the high split, no training. So if I had it to do over again, I would do the low split, high training. And I said, okay, well, that tells me I'll follow your advice then. So I go back to my uncle and I said, now, okay, where should I go? And he pointed me to a guy that he had been in business with at one point and said, he seems to have agents that follow him around. I think he does a good job. Go talk to him. So I went and talked to this guy. His name was Tom. And when I went and talked to Tom, now here's the interesting thing, or funny thing, at least to me it is now, because I didn't realize at the time. And I don't know if you guys were this way when you got your license, but for me, I showed up to the interview and I was like, I thought like I was interviewing for a job. And so I showed up like ready, nervous, all of that, and putting my best foot forward and leaving there, going home and telling my wife, oh, I think I did a good job. I think they'll want to hire me. And what I didn't know that I do now is he was on the other side going, okay, I hope I do a good job, so that he wants to choose to come to my brokerage. See, I didn't realize that the brokers were as anxious to get you as an agent as you typically were in talking to him. So anyway, so I go to work for this guy, and I remember I showed up on my very first day, and I have always been the type that just, I will, I want to know, tell me what to do, and I'll go do it. So I showed up on the first day. I went to Tom and I said, all right, tell me what to do. And he said, first thing you should do is make a list of everyone you know, and then write down that list, create this list of every person you know. And I said, okay. So I went and sat down at my desk, and I just, I went and got like the wedding list that my wife and I had sent out. And like, I just writing down all these people that anybody I could think of how I knew. And so I did that. Then I went back to him and I said, okay, I've done that. Now what? And he said, now go write a card or a letter to each of those people and put in a business card in it. So I did. I went and created, got these, kind of like a thank you card kind of thing, but I can't remember what it said, but it was something like I've joined real estate or whatever, but it was a card that the company had. So I got that. I wrote out these notes. I stuck business cards in them and I sent it off. Then I went back to him again and I said, okay, now what should I do? And I think at this point he was getting tired of me coming and, because like it was like one day, okay, what do I do? The next day, now what do I do? Then the next day, okay, now what do I do? And so he finally just said, here's what you need to do. Go out and knock on doors for 2 hours every day for the next 2 years, and then you'll never have to do it again. And I was like, okay, I got it. So I went out and actually I found a lady at the office. Her name was Shirley. That we had gone to a training that the company had done, so similar to what you guys are doing now, and ended up, people are announcing which office they're in, and which, by the way, for you guys on Zoom, I know some of you have done it, but make sure you put first and last name in your office that you're working out of in there. So anyway, I did that, and I noticed this other lady that said she had started real estate about the same time as I did, that she was in the same office I was in. And so on a break, I went and found her and started to talk to her and just said, hey, we should go knock on doors together. So she and I decided what we would do is we would go out every day and knock on doors. So we would meet at the office at about 9:15 every day. Then by about 9:30ish, we were in a conference room and we would sit and do some role play. And then we wanted to be in our car and driving somewhere before 10. And then we would drive out to a neighborhood. We would park, get out of the car. She would go on one side of the street. I would go on the other, and we would just go knock doors. And she would be on this side of the street. I'd be on this side, and we would just head down to the end of the road and then go over to the next street or whatever. But we would go out and knock on doors. And the objective that I had was to go get 25 contacts every day from knocking on doors. Well, after I got back to the office, so we would go from about 10 till 12:30 is usually about 2.5 hours out knocking on doors, about what it would take us to get back then, 25 contacts. So we get done and we'd go back to the office, and then I would go eat lunch, and then I came back to the office and I was like, okay, I don't know what else to do. And so Shirley and I were talking. We just said, well, we probably ought to just let's get on the phone and make phone calls. So then in the afternoon, we would jump on and just do phone calls. Now, why I'm sharing all this with you is for a few reasons to show you a few things. So one of the things that happened was that my manager at the time, Tom, when I sat down with him, he had asked me, what are your goals? How much money do you want to make? And I wanted to make, how much do you think my goal was to make $100,000. So I said to him, I want to make $100,000. So he took me through a process that looked something like this. He said, okay, you want to make $100,000 a year. And at the time, the average commission, what you would get paid on a commission, was about $2,000. So he said, so if you're going to make $2,000 on every transaction you do, and you want to make $100,000, I got to do how many transactions? 50, right? So what he said is, and this is a good place to start. What I'm about to say is a good place to start. And you're going to hear it throughout our industry like crazy. You're going to hear people say this. And it's a good place to start, but it's actually not true. Okay. But it's a good place to start. So I'm not discounting it because you're going to hear it over and over and over again, but it's not really true what I'm about to say next, but it's a good place to start. Okay. So what he told me, what my manager told me back then, and you'll hear it even still today, if you want to do 50 transactions in a day, you need to do 50 contacts every day. So essentially what you will hear is however many transactions you want to do in a year is how many contacts you should do per day. So essentially, when we are doing our morning affirmations and we go through the 12 steps to the summit of success, and we say you should be doing 30 contacts a day, what you would assume is you should do 30 transactions a year then if you do 30 contacts a day. It's a good place to start, but it's actually not true. And why I say that's not true, it might be for some people that it's true, but there was another guy that started at our office about the same time as Shirley and I. And so as a result of my manager telling me do 50 contacts a day, I would do 50 contacts every day. I would do 25 from door knocking, and then in the afternoon, I would call until I got 25 contacts. And I would do that every day. And there was another guy though in the office, his name was Perry. And he would go out door knocking with us occasionally, but he would be on the phone a lot at the office. So even if he didn't go out door knocking with us, he would be on the phone making phone calls. And he was doing 30 to 50 contacts. I don't know exactly his number, but somewhere in that range every day. And I don't think he ever did a deal, ever. Like the whole time, and he was there for about a year. So that's part of why I say it's a good place to start, to be thinking in terms of if I want to do X number of transactions, I got to do X number of contacts. Now, so I was doing 50 contacts a day and have been doing it for about a year and a half. And about a year and a half into the business, I had basically replaced my income from the bank. So it wasn't that I was making $100,000. So that's the other reason I partially say it's not really necessarily true. Because again, you go back to Brian Burnett that I talked about yesterday, that's our top agent in St. George, that made almost $2 million last year. He does basically 50 contacts a day and does 150 transactions a year. So there's not really this necessarily correlation. Now, part of where I learned that though, and so I know this is a long story to get to where we're going, I understand, but it's crucial for you to understand the pieces of it. And so what happened is a year and a half into the business, I had essentially replaced my income from the bank. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't come into this business to just replace the income that I had made at the bank. I wanted to do basically 3 times that. Well, so what happened then is about a year and a half into after I'd had my license, I went to a training. And the training that was done was by a guy who now has become a good friend of mine. In fact, I'm going to see him tomorrow afternoon after class. I'm going to go and meet with him for a bit. But he's the one who really has trained me in almost everything I'm training you guys in. I learned from this guy. And so I had gone to this training that he did. And in this training, he started talking about kind of what we are right now. And I raised my hand and had kind of just said, hey, I'm a little frustrated because I was told if you made 50 contacts a day, you would do 50 transactions a year. And I'm not doing that. And I'm frustrated because that's what I want to make. And I didn't come into this business to replace the income. I wanted to make a good living. And so he then stopped the class, or maybe it was part of what he was going to do anyway. I don't know. But we had the discussion you and I are going to have right now. And what he showed me was this. So he drew this on the board that basically said, okay, so what I'm going to draw here for you, this is the learning curve, okay, or half of a bell curve. Kind of poorly drawn, but half of a bell curve, okay? And what he said is in real estate, it's broken down into segments, basically. There's 4 segments that are going to take place for you in your real estate journey. I'm going to see if I can fix my line here. Hang on. That's the good thing about using my iPad to do this versus writing on the board is much easier to, that's a little better. Okay, so what he then showed me was this. Okay, so basically think of it this way is we're going to break this down into 4 sections. And so what happens with us is when we first get our real estate license, we're going to be in what he called, and we will call, the activities phase. In the activities phase, so think of it this way. What you're looking at here, this line, this learning curve, or this half of a bell curve, basically think of that as being your income, okay? So this is how much money you're going to make based on each section that you're in, okay? And what he said is, and I've learned, and this is true, is the first thing that happens when we get our real estate license is we end up in this activities phase. In the activities phase, and I don't know if you guys have gone through this, but I did as a new agent. I remember what happened was that I felt like, and I think I've shared this with you guys before, but I felt like, what am I going to do? So when I went out and knocked on doors, my biggest fear was not that somebody was going to slam the door in my face. I wasn't worried about that. I wasn't worried about somebody telling me no. I wasn't scared of that. What I was worried most about was what if somebody said, yeah, come on in. We want you to help us sell our house. That was my fear. It wasn't like that somebody was going to say no. It was that they were going to say yes. And so what happened, and this is what happens with a lot of agents, is we then get ourselves into this. Well, because in real estate school, did they teach you in real estate school how to go sell real estate? No. What did they teach you in school?
How to not go to jail.
Yeah, essentially how to pass the test and what the laws were to stay out of jail from it, right? So for me, I at least came out of it going, okay, what am I going to do if somebody says yes? I don't know what to do. Well, so this activities phase is where most people go to, is because, well, now I got to learn how to actually go and do this. I got to learn how to do the business. And so what happens is we think, well, I got to go and do all of this other stuff or learn these things before I can go out and prospect. Before I can get on the phone and talk to people, I have to know and understand all of these things in here. So what happens then is we spend time going, okay, I got to learn how to fill out the contract. So we'll spend an entire day looking at a contract. And then we go, I got to learn how to use the MLS. So we'll jump on the MLS and do searches to see if we can get good at that. And then I got to learn how to get into the office and how does the phone work or whatever. I mean, just all kinds of just stuff, okay? Which we'll talk more about later. But the activities phase is we're doing stuff that makes us feel like we're working, but we're not really doing anything to generate income. So if you notice down here, this line, how much money do you make in the activities phase?
Not too much.
Yeah, essentially none, right? Because in that activities phase, we're not doing anything to generate any business. All we are doing is learning how to do this job. So here's part of what I guess I'm saying to you guys, and what he told me is you need to get out of this phase into this one as fast as you can. So meaning, yes, do you need to learn how to fill out a contract? Absolutely. Do you have to learn how to do a CMA? Yes, you got to learn all those things, but don't spend all of your time doing those things. So he said, you got to get out of that and into this next phase, which the next phase over here is what we will call the contacts phase. Now, remember I just said to you that what you're going to hear in this business and what I was told, and I think it's a good place to start, is that the number of transactions you want to do is the number of contacts you should do in a day. I do think and still believe it is a good place to start. What I'm trying to say to you guys is just don't buy into the fact that that's all there is to it for you to make that many, that if you do 50 contacts a day, you will make 50 transactions happen every year. Because I did it for a year and a half and it didn't, and I watched many people do 30, 40, 50 contacts a day and not do that many transactions. But it's a good place to start. And so why I say it's a good place to start is because of what we're talking about right now. See, and here's the problem. When you hear somebody say, you should do as many contacts per day as transactions you want to do. The reason I say it's a good place to start is because that gets you, the reason it's a good thing is it gets you out of this activities phase and into the contacts phase. So for me, I was doing 50 contacts a day, but then take a look down here, and maybe I should have moved, I probably should have had this line be a little bit further over this way. But if you look in the contacts phase, and if this line is our income, what happens in the contacts phase?
Start to make a little money.
Yeah, you're going to start to make a little money, but that's not where the big money is made. So it's a good place to start is in this contacts phase, meaning, and the reason I say that, the reason I say decide how many transactions you need to do based upon what we talked about yesterday to get the income, and start with that's how many contacts I'm going to do every day. But again, what this guy taught me was you need to be in that phase for only a short period of time, like maybe a month, and then go to the next phase, which is what we will call, I'm going to abbreviate it, but the appointments phase. So the next phase of this is what we would call the appointments phase. Now, notice what happens to your income in the appointments phase. Goes up dramatically. And then the last phase, which we're not going to talk a whole lot about today, but is what we would call the transactions phase. So here's what I've learned, and then I'll tell you this is what happened with me. Here's what I've learned is in this appointments phase, if you're in this phase, the income you will make during this appointments phase is going to be somewhere in the, I guess using today's numbers, not back when I first learned it, but I would say it's $200,000 to $500,000 a year is what you can make in this appointments phase, if you will do what we're going to talk about today. And then the transactions phase is when then you're going to go even higher on this. But in the transactions phase is, well, actually, I'm going to come back to it. I first want to come back to this appointments phase. So here's what happens. So let me continue the story now. So I'm in this training program with this guy, and he says to me, here's the problem. Because when I told him, I was frustrated because I was told if I made 50 contacts a day, I would do 50 transactions, which would have equated to $100,000 a year. And he said to me, here's the problem. He said, your problem is you're stuck in this contacts phase. And you can see that you're going to make a little bit of money in the contacts phase, but that's not where the big money's made. The big money's made in the appointments phase. And I said, okay, well, so how do I do that? How do I get to the appointments phase? And he said, here's what you have to do to get to the appointments phase is right now, at that point, my focus was on making 50 contacts every day. And he said, who cares how many contacts you make? So this is why I said to you, it's a good place to start, but very quickly you got to get to the point where you go, it doesn't matter how many contacts I make, because at the end of the day, it doesn't. What matters is and here's the question he asked me. He said, okay, how many if you're doing 50 contacts a day, how many appointments a day are you getting? And I was like, oh, not very many. And he said, okay, well, how many in a week? And I don't remember what my number was back then, but it was probably 1 or 2 in a week. So I was doing 50 contacts a day, but setting 1 or 2 appointments every week. And he said, okay, do you want to, and now here's the question he asked me. Now remember, I was prospecting somewhere between 4 and 5 hours a day was spent either knocking on doors or on the phone. And he said to me, what if I told you there was a way that you could prospect half as much? So now remember, 2 to 2.5 hours a day instead of 4 to 5. What if I told you there was a way you could prospect half as much, but double your income? And I was like, sign me up. Like, what do I need to do? Now, remember, I told you guys, I have just always been kind of the type of person of when I first started, tell me what to do and I'll do it. And if my first manager would have told me to do what this is, I would have hit the ground a lot quicker than it took me. But so when I met this guy and he said, here's what you need to do is quit worrying about contacts. Now, that's not the same thing as don't keep track. I still kept track of my contacts, but he said, you're not doing this to get to a certain number of contacts. So here's what I mean by that. I know of, well, do any of you guys know Jason Carlson? Nobody's in the Orem office, huh? So Jason Carlson, who's our manager in the Orem office, he told the story one day that he had decided he wanted to make 100 contacts in a day, which I don't know. Have any of you done that 100 in a day? I never have
Not
either.
even close.
Yeah, I've done 50 a lot, but once I hit 50, I was always done. So he decided he was going to do 100. Well, I already told you guys to get to 100 is probably an 8 to 10 hour day to talk to 100 people. So he decided he was going to do that. At the end of the day, guess how many appointments he had set?
4.
No, 0.
Oh.
0. Because his
He had
focus.
time.
Yeah, that's right. He didn't have time to set appointments because it was like when
I gotta get off the phone with
Yeah,
this guy to get the next guy.
that's what it was. That's exactly what it was, Chad, was I got this guy on the phone. I got to hurry and get off because I got to get to the next person so that I can get to 100. See, that's ultimately what I was doing when I was focused on making 50 contacts was I would hit my 50 and I would go home and I would tell my wife, yep, got my 50 contacts. And I would feel really good because I worked really hard that day. But how many appointments did I set? Very little. And so as a result of that, what he told me is, I'm going to give you a formula that can double your income and you'll prospect half as much. And I said, perfect. What is it? Tell me. And he said, here's what it is. You're going to prospect every day, not until you get 50 contacts. You prospect until you set 1 new appointment. And he said, that's it. You prospect until you set an appointment. I don't care how many contacts it takes you to get that appointment, but you prospect until you set an appointment. And I was like, oh, I mean, I don't know about that because like it took me usually the whole week sometimes to get an appointment. And so I said, I don't know about that. And he was like, just trust me on it. You can do it. And I said, okay. So this class that I was in at that time was a Monday, Tuesday, then we would have a break until the next Wednesday. So that we were having this conversation on a Tuesday. And what he said was, I want you to commit to just between this Tuesday from today, or so the next day would have been Wednesday, till the next Wednesday, to every day that you work, that you will set a new appointment or you won't go home. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I mean, I was like, for a week, yeah, I'll do that. And now this guy's pretty smart. In fact, actually, kind of just his background was he went to the University of Utah to get a PhD in physics. Like this guy's like that kind of smart. His plan was actually to become a rocket scientist is what he wanted to do. And then I don't know who all we have on from California, but he actually went down to Point Mugu, which is close to some of our offices down in California, to train as an intern, basically, because he wanted to be a rocket scientist. And after he got down there, he realized this is not what I want to do. And so he then actually got involved with business consulting, which led him to consult. His first big client was a real estate company. And so he had trained then these real estate companies how to get business going. So that's kind of how I had come across, but he's a smart guy. And so he had said to me, if you'll commit to doing that, this will work. And I said, okay, I'll commit. Well, because he was such a smart guy, he was like, he could tell I didn't get it. So he said to me, no, he's like, no, like for real, like you can't go home if you don't set an appointment. And I was like, no, I get it. And he said, okay, let me just make sure you get it. And then I didn't get it when he said this. He said, you go home tonight and you tell your wife, I am not coming home tomorrow from work if I don't set an appointment. And I was like, oh, you mean like I really can't go home? And he was like, yeah, no, you can't go home. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure I want to commit to that. And he said, you could do it. I promise you can do it. And I said, okay. And he said, just for 1 week, commit to doing that. And I said, okay. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Remember I said I was showing up to the office 9 or 9:15. If I said to you, or if you just made the commitment, I will not go home tomorrow until I set an appointment. What time, assuming for tomorrow, not today, tomorrow, what time would you show up? What time would you start working tomorrow if you knew you cannot go home until you get an appointment?
2 hours earlier, easy, like 7.
Okay, what about you?
If you're starting at 9, I would be like, oh shit, I gotta get there at 7.
Okay.
Show
What?
up for role play at 7 and then go through the day like that. Just do prospecting from 9 to noon.
Okay,
We'd obviously have to use this class to do that, but
sure. So that's why I'm not making you commit for tomorrow. But okay, what about the rest of you? What time would you start working?
As soon as you wake up.
Yeah, I mean, like, so that's what happened. So for me, all of a sudden I went home that night. I told my wife, okay, this training class that I'm in, this guy said that this is what I should do. And he told me that if I'll do what he tells me to do, I'll double my income and I'll do it in half the amount of time. So I said, so I'm going to do it. And here's the way my wife responded is, well, and Chad knows my son, Douglas. At the time, he was pretty young and he was just starting baseball. And my wife's like, well, he has baseball practice at 5 o'clock tomorrow. So you better be home you better get your appointment and be home by 5. And so I was like, I will. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. Okay. So here's the thing. I was showing up to the office 9:15. Yeah. Similar to what you guys said. I was there at the office like 7 a.m. I was like, I'm showing up at the office. And here's what I did is I was like, okay, I'm going to get from 7 to 8 because you technically can't start calling until 8 a.m. for telemarketing laws. So I was like, okay, even though actually, by the way, a lot of people calling for sale by owners and expireds will start as early as 6:45, sometimes even 6:30 that they'll start calling.
Sometimes people react better when you're the first one to talk to them.
Well,
I've noticed that like a couple
No,
times.
that is 100% true on a for sale by owner and expired. If you're the first one to talk to them, they're nicer, which is why people will start that early. But I'm just telling you, it's against the law, but
It's only illegal if you get caught.
I'm not nice to anybody who called my house at 6:45.
Chad's like, I'm not gonna. Well, and for me today, my phone's on do not disturb. So even if you called, you're not getting me. But anyway, so there are a lot of people that will start that early. But I was like, I'm kind of more of a rule follower. So I was like, okay, I'll start right at 8. So, but I got to the office at 7. And back then, the way we got for sale by owners is you stopped at the convenience store at 7-Eleven or something on the way, pulled out the newspaper, and then when you got to the office, you'd open up to the section that had the for sale by owners, and like, that's how we had to find them. But so I would do that, and then I would go to the computer and I would print off the expireds from the day before. And the way we looked up phone numbers back then was we had a book that was called the Coles Directory that was about this thick. And the way that the book was put together was by street. So you would go to the street and it would have everybody on that street listed. So I would take the Coles directory and I would, this huge book like this, and then I would go through and look up the phone numbers. So like to some extent, I'm like, we have it so easy today compared to.
Yeah, Red X is pretty cool.
Yeah, Red X makes it very nice. So anyway, I looked all that up. 8 o'clock. Now now that I should have asked this first, but because I did not, that is not the first people I called necessarily, by the way. So if you were going to do that, if I told you got to set an appointment tomorrow, who are the first people you would call?
SOI.
Okay, good. SOI is good. I think there's actually one that's a little better than that. But SOI is good. There's one that's just a little better than that because of how long I had been in the business. And I'll tell you if you don't think of it.
Just listed, just sold.
Nope. The leads. Just leads that I already had. Meaning people that as I had been out knocking on doors. Yeah, lead follow-up. Remember that? Remember on day 1 I told you guys agents don't do that? Well, I was guilty of having all these sticky notes on my desk of people that I should have called. So for me, I was like, that's the first group I'm going to call because those are people who have already expressed interest to me. So I jumped on the phone and I started calling. Well, it didn't take me, and I wish I could remember how long it exactly took me, but I don't remember how long, but it was less than 2 hours I had set an appointment. Now, the other side of this, the other piece of this that I left out is that this guy told me, once you set an appointment for the day, you have to go home. Like now, I could do whatever work I had to do. Like if I needed to do prep work for a listing or if I had a property under contract, I could work on it. But he said, once you're done with setting your appointment, do whatever work needs to be done and then go home. Like, don't just hang out at the office, leave. And I said, okay. So I get my appointment at 8 o'clock and I had a few other things that I needed to do. So I worked on those things. Well, Shirley had not been in this class that I was in. And so Shirley showed up to the office around 9:15 when she usually did. I had already set an appointment at that point. And she said, okay, let's go role play. And I said, okay. So I went in the conference room, we role played. And we got done and she's like, all right, I'll meet you out at the car in 5 minutes and we'll go. And I said, oh yeah, I'm not going today. And Shirley was a great accountability partner. In fact, I didn't mention her in terms of accountability when we talked about it, right? Oh,
No.
she was awesome. Like prior to this time, anytime I would say I can't go door knocking because I'm too busy, like Shirley would like make me feel like this big if I didn't go. Like I would go door knocking every day. So that she started doing that to me. She's like, oh, no, you're coming door knocking. And I said, no, I can't, because I made a deal that once I set my appointment for the day, I would get whatever work done I needed to and then go home. And I could go on appointments too, obviously. But I said, so I'm going to get that stuff done and go home. And she was like, that's a huge mistake. Don't do it. And I said, Shirley, it's for 1 week. Just give me 1 week. And she really made me feel guilty, but I was like, I made a commitment already. I'm doing it. So I get done. I go strolling in the house before noon. And my wife's like, what are you doing here? And I said, I got my appointment. I'm done. And she was like, yeah, I'm not so sure about this idea. And in her mind, she's like, you were working, all day, every day and not making very much money. All of a sudden now I'm home by noon. And she's like, yeah, I don't think this is a good idea either. And I said, it's for 1 week. Let's just see what happens. It's for a week. So at the end of the week, what I found was I had set my appointment. I would set an appointment every day within 2 hours of making my phone calls during that week. Every single day within 2 hours, I did it. Now, here's what happened. At the end of the week, then what happened was I said, that's my new thing. Like I will keep track of my contacts here, but it doesn't matter how many I get. What matters is how many appointments that I set. And can I set a new appointment? Now, make sure you catch what I'm saying here is it's a new appointment. So I couldn't call like a buyer that I was already working with and go, hey, you want to go look at a couple houses? Oh, there's an appointment, because that's not a new appointment. It had to be somebody I've never met with before. So that was the key. Now, so I could call somebody if they had dogged me on an appointment, which happens a lot actually in this business, is you set an appointment and then they don't show up for it. So I could call one of them and reschedule, and because as long as it was somebody I'd never met with. Now, I will tell you along the way, I learned the part of the thing is it's not like the next year I didn't all of a sudden make $200,000 a year, but over the next couple of years I got to that point, and it was because of doing nothing but this. Now, part of why I say it didn't happen all over 1 year is because part of what happens in this process is you have to learn when it is an appointment or it's not. So let me give you an idea of what I mean. Is I had at one point I fell into a trap that and I don't know if I've said this to you guys yet, but one of my mantras is power comes out of telling the truth. Power comes out of telling the truth. And when I say that, it's not, I don't mean like me talking to you telling the truth. What I mean by power comes out of telling the truth is you tell yourself the truth. Is you can't tell yourself, yes, I set an appointment when you really didn't. And so what I mean by that was this. I fell into this trap where what I would do is I would call up a for sale by owner and say, hey, I work in the area and, I have a lot of buyers that I work with in the area. I would like to come by and take a look at your home and see if it would work for any of my clients. And typically a for sale by owner is going to go, okay. And then I would go, yes, got my appointment. But when I say power comes out of telling the truth, when I told myself the truth, they weren't expecting me to come out and talk to them about me listing their home. And so when I finally recognized I'm cheating myself by calling that an appointment, because it's not, I'm only hurting myself. When I figured that out that's why I say, to some extent, this is a process of I just fell into this trap of, oh, I set an appointment. I've got an appointment to go meet with these people. And then I was like, yeah, it's not really an appointment. So I quit doing that. Okay. All right. So next question for you. If that was the case, or what do you think the difference was in how I approached things before when I was focused on contacts versus when I was focused on appointments?
Quality
You
of
actually,
life
you give that
conversation.
person a time when you were on the phone with them.
Okay, so tell me.
So like, oh, thanks, sweet, bye.
Okay, so say more. What do you mean?
quality of conversation.
Okay, tell me more though. What do you mean?
So you build rapport with people, actually learn about their property, like find out, like try to find some emotional connection with them. That way you can like get them to know you and actually be the person they'll use if they decide to do it.
Okay, good. So let me give you an example. So Swen, will you role play it with me?
Sure.
So here's initially, this is what I was doing. This is what it would look like at first. I would knock on your door. Knock, knock.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. We just listed your neighbor's home over here on blah blah Birch and Pine, and it's got 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, and it's listed for $600,000. And I just was wondering who you know that would want to move into the area.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. That's a lot of information. Whose house again?
It's the Jones. Do you know them?
No, don't know.
Okay. Well, so how about you? When do you plan on moving?
I don't right now.
No plans to? Okay. Well, do you know anybody else thinking about buying or selling?
No, not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, here's my business card. If you hear of anybody, let me know. Now, remember when I was tracking contacts, that's a contact.
Win, W.
Yeah, I won because, I got a contact. So I'd be like, well, there's one. Then I'd go to Chad. Knock, knock. Hi, my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. We just listed your neighbor's home, the Jones, this 5 bedroom, blah, 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 blah. You know, who do you know wants to move into the area? Nobody. Okay, well, when do you plan on moving? We don't. Okay, well, do you know anybody else thinking about buying or selling? Okay, here's my card, and I would go to the next. Now, because in my mind, it was back to, I got to get to my 50 contacts so I can be done and be like, yes, I did it. Now, if instead I could get an appointment with Swen, now I don't have to go talk to Chad. No offense, but like I don't have to go talk to Chad. I can just go home. So now watch what I did. So what changes when you do this? What will change is your approach. Your approach is what's got to change. So let me show you what I mean. So now, knock, knock.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. We listed your neighbor's home, the Jones. It's got 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, listed for $600,000. Who do you know that wants to move into the area?
Wow, 600,000 is a lot.
Yeah.
I would not have thought that.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
That's bonkers. I can't think of anybody.
You can't think of anyone? Okay, well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to think about it. How about you? When do you plan on moving?
I mean,
if we could get $600,000 for your house.
that's true. It's a very good point.
Yeah.
I would never have thought that would be possible in this neighborhood. I mean, I guess if you got 600,000, I would have to consider it.
No, tell me no. Don't be that easy.
No.
Don't roll over that easy.
I'm being nice to you.
I don't be.
Okay.
Oh,
I still don't know. I mean, maybe if you got me more than that, it would have to be really enticing for me to,
so wow, I have to even get you more. Okay. Well, so how long have you lived here?
like 2 years.
You've been 2 years.
Yeah.
Really? That's cool. Where'd you move from?
Provo.
From Provo to here. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. So what brought you here?
I work.
Your work.
Yep.
Okay, cool. What do you do for work?
I'm a cop.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's cool. Well, hey, thank you for your service. I appreciate
You're
that.
very welcome.
Well, let me ask you, if you ever were to move, where would you go next?
There's this neighborhood in Sandy that my cousin lives in. I really love that area.
So a neighborhood in Sandy here. Okay, so when would that be?
I guess if something came available and it was affordable, I would
Okay.
probably consider looking now.
Okay, so if as long as something was affordable and,
Yeah.
and okay, good. Well, so give me an idea of what you would want in a home then.
So size-wise, it's great. What we have here, we have 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, so something like that.
So 4 bedrooms, 3
Yard.
bedrooms.
Maybe a little bit larger kitchen than we have right now.
Bigger kitchen, okay.
We have a 2-car, maybe a 3-car garage.
So a 3-car garage, perfect. You know, I actually might know of a couple that could work. Would you have some time either today or tomorrow? We could go take a look.
Can't today, but I could potentially tomorrow.
So tomorrow you could. Okay, so is afternoon or evening better for you?
About morning.
Morning? Oh, yeah, I could make morning
Morning
work.
work, yeah.
Sure, so,
I have an
uh,
evening shift. So
Would 10?
10 works.
10 o'clock tomorrow. Great. Awesome. Okay. Now, what changed? Now, to some extent, that's still a little maybe too easy, but
It was pretty easy, but persistency.
but yeah, what changed? So persistency.
2 things, your approach and your mindset when you were going for it. Before you're focused on I just want to talk to a bunch of people. Not, I want to, there's something I've learned so far is continuously close.
Yeah.
Continuously close. And if you're just making contacts, boom, 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 it's all a numbers game, but that's the only focus when you're just making contacts.
Yeah. See, and that's just it. So the challenge that I have is when you say it's a numbers game, I agree, but I also then kind of disagree. And what I mean by that is it is a numbers game as long as I have the focus on getting an appointment. The problem is before when I said 50 contacts a day, they're saying it's a numbers game. You don't have to do anything but get the numbers. And I'm saying you got to get the numbers and have the focus be on them. So let me see. Is Jesse, are you on, Jesse?
Yes, I'm on, Russ.
All right. You want to, I'm going to turn this up a little bit so they can hear you a little better here. So last week on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday, right? Well, actually, Jesse was with me Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I was in California. We did some call arounds, and I did it at 3 different offices, and Jesse went to each of the offices. But yesterday I mentioned to you guys I was going to have him talk a little bit about what happened. So last Wednesday, a week ago today, we were in the office that's in Santa Clarita making phone calls. We were getting nobody to answer the phone. Jesse got on with a guy and was talking to him. And actually, this part of it was kind of a little funny, actually. But so he's on the phone. I walk over and I'm standing next to him while he's talking to the guy. And I kept telling him, say this, now say that. Now, and at one point I said, let's do this. And he goes, let's do this. And then a few minutes later, he takes his earbud out and he goes, I can't hear what you're saying. So I don't know, Jesse, if you had heard anything I had said up to that point. Had you?
I heard a few things. At that point,
Okay.
you had told me to say something else. That's when I said, I can't hear you. And that's when
Okay.
you said, put it on speaker.
Okay. I thought he couldn't hear anything. I was like, I'm sitting here saying all this stuff. So anyway, I finally then said, put him on speaker. So he puts the guy on the speakerphone. So it wasn't on his AirPods. And he just kind of starts talking to the guy. Well, I finally just, rather than trying to tell him what to say, I said, let me take over. So just middle of the call, it went from Jesse talking to the guy to me talking to the guy without, like, we didn't tell him anything changed, which, by the way, I have never once had somebody go, wait a minute, this is not the voice I was just talking to, FYI. So in the middle of the conversation, I just took over. So, and then what did you observe from that, Jesse?
So what I really noticed was the create value. You created a lot of value with him, and this guy, he's an investor, guys, and he was kind of opening up to me before Russ took over, and he was talking to me about things. But when Russ was speaking to him, he was creating a lot of value with him, and the guy felt so comfortable. We sat on the phone with him for 35 minutes. He was talking Russ's ear off. Yeah, just going into specifics he's had with other agents, because he didn't know why Russ was so persistent about meeting with him. He said, these agents just want to do the transaction. They don't care about me. They just email me properties. Why are you being so persistent? And Russ was like, well, I want to work with you. I want to do these transactions with you. And he really felt the value, and I could tell, which is why he opened up to us. So it was easy for Russ to close with him.
Sorry, we didn't keep track, but how many times did I ask him for an appointment before he said yes?
You asked him at least 5 times. I asked him once.
Yeah, so Jesse had already asked him once. I asked at least 5 other times afterwards, and he kept telling me no, and finally said yes. So back to what you said, Tim, which is right on, is the difference is typically what I've noticed what happens with agents. So thank you, Jesse. What typically happens is agents will get on the phone and we will do like I did my first one. Well, who do you know? Nobody. Well, how about you? Do you plan on moving? No. Well, okay, well, here's my card. Like, I didn't even ask for an appointment at all the first time that we talked. But just know you're typically going to have to ask a minimum of 3 times before they'll say yes. They're usually, sorry, go ahead.
If I could butt in about that too. So when I asked him first and he said no, I was just going to give up. I'm trying to get over that, but I do that on the phone. And knowing Russ was right there too, I was pushing more. But Russ is right. You just got to keep asking and asking and asking. Of course, probably not the same way right after one another. And like Russ and I were talking about it, it's kind of 1 step forward, 2 steps back. If they say no, take 2 steps back, ask a couple questions, then ask again. But you just got to be persistent, really.
Yeah, good. So that's the next piece where I want to go on. So in order for you to, so we've talked about going from activities phase to contacts phase to then the appointments phase. In the appointments phase, so this is the next thing that I want to hit on. There's 3 things that have to take place in order for you to set an appointment. And we're going to get into and talk about probably more so tomorrow than today, but we're going to talk specifics of like with a for sale by owner, with an expired listing, and get into specifics that way. But there are some basic things that have to happen no matter what on any of the calls. And so here's what it is. The first thing is you have to connect. Or we could write it as you have to have rapport. You have to have a connection or build some rapport with the person, okay? In order for you to set an appointment, there's got to be a connection or a rapport that is built. Now, the way that we're going to do that and get the connection and the rapport is through asking questions. So you're going to ask a question. Once they answer your question, so for example, when I said to Swin, so who do you know that wants to move into the area? And he said, so watch, we'll do it again. So who do you know that wants to move into the area?
I don't know anybody.
So as soon as he says, I don't know anybody, the next thing that I need to do to create this connection and rapport is I have to, oops, I'm talking and not like repeat and affirm. So I've got to repeat back what he said. And that, yeah, you got to repent for that question. I'll try to fix it.
I'm just joking.
Repeat and affirm. Okay, so you have to repeat and affirm. So when I say, who do you know that wants to move into the area? And you said,
I don't know anyone.
so then I'm going to say, you don't know anyone? Well, thank you for taking the time to think about it. Or I'm going to go, you don't know anyone? That's great, thanks. So I'm going to repeat back what he said so that he knows I heard him, and then affirm what he said. Okay, so that's the first thing that has to happen is you got to repeat what they said and affirm. But when you do that, you've got to do it like you mean it. And what I mean by that is, and I actually kind of even have a little bit of a hard time doing this without meaning it, but this is what I watch agents do, is we're so worried about the next question we're going to ask that what we do is this. So who do you know that wants to move into the area?
Can't think of anyone right now.
Can't think of anyone. Okay. So how long, what about, do you want to move? Like that's what I hear agents do is, well, do you want to move?
Yeah, it's kind of good. Not necessarily, but man, 600,000, we can't really get that.
Yeah, 600,000. So how long have you lived here? Like, but can you see, like, that does not create any type of a connection or rapport versus if I do this. So how long have you lived at this address?
A couple of years.
A couple of years, really?
Yep.
Where did you move from? That's awesome.
Provo.
From Provo to here.
Yep.
See, like, that's how I always do it. I'm from Provo to here.
Yep.
Really?
Enthusiasm.
Yeah. Thank you. You got what?
How exciting.
Yeah.
Why would
That's-
you leave Provo?
Yeah. But yeah, you got to be excited for him. Now, what if I do this? Really, that's exciting. And he goes, not really. I hated it. Watch. So, where'd you move from?
From Provo?
From Provo to here. Oh, that's great. What brought you here?
I just hated Provo.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Like I'm immediately gonna go into. Yeah, think what Trevor just
Good
said.
choice. Good choice.
What Trevor just said. Say that again, because I want.
I'm your best friend.
Yeah, essentially, that's what you want to do. Is you want to be the whatever they say is right on. So if they're no, I hated it. Oh, me too. I know that stupid Y on the mountain. That's ridiculous.
That's my least favorite letter.
So that's my least favorite letter in the alphabet.
So far, like in these last month or so, that they're gonna have like, man, I'm Democratic or Republican on every different call. It doesn't matter who.
That's right. Well, whoever it is, you hate masks.
Oh,
I hate masks too.
I hate masks.
You love masks. I know everybody should be wearing masks. Yeah.
I've been doing it, and I'm like, normally I don't flip flop, but man, I'm really easy nowadays.
Yeah. Well, but so here's the thing. So now, since we're having this conversation, let me pause on it for a minute. What is the difference? So let me make sure that you guys get it, because what I don't like, I want to make sure you guys understand that, like, I'm not trying to be fake. So what I mean by that is the number one human need that people have is acceptance or validation. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be validated. And So what is the difference between manipulation and persuasion?
Manipulation or reinforce to do with persuasion if you want it.
Okay, good. So yeah, so think of it as manipulation is I'm doing it for my best interest. Persuasion is I'm doing it for your best interest. So it's your intention. At the end of the day, the difference between manipulation and persuasion is your intention. What is your intention? My intention is to help. So like I said, if all of a sudden he loves BYU, then I'm probably going to love BYU. I mean, not necessarily. I don't know if I can do that, but but I could say, I could do like, yeah, no, I can understand, you know, why. So think of it this way. Probably the next thing I'm going to throw on here under this connection and rapport is the word empathy. You have to have empathy. Show empathy for people. Here, empathy is this. Empathy is if I were you, I would feel the same way. So if I were you, I would feel the same way. See, so whether I do feel the same way about Provo or whatever, anything he said, doesn't really matter if I really do or not. If I say, hey, if I were you, I would be excited about that too. Or if I were you, I would be frustrated about that. So now let's talk for just a second about a for sale by owner and expired. That when I called Chad at 6:45 in the morning, which I'm never going to, but if I did, and he answers and he's not nice to me, so what would you say? So like just be whatever for real. Hey, this is Russ. I noticed you had your home come off the market last night, and I just was calling to see when you wanted to interview agents to get your home sold.
You realize it's 6:45 in the morning.
Oh, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. No, I'm just kidding.
I
So-
can call back.
Yeah, so yeah, no, I do understand. So here's what I'm gonna do. Yes, I do understand it's 6:45 in the morning, but I want to help you get your home sold, and I want to show you like the early bird gets the worm, and I want to show you like how aggressive I am about getting home sold. So when could be a good time that we could get together?
Call me later, like 9.
Call you back at 9 o'clock? Yeah, I can understand that. If I were you, I'd probably be a little upset somebody calling me at 6:45 in the morning as well. So that's probably what I should have said first when he's like, you're calling me at 6:45? I know, right? I would be frustrated if somebody was calling me at 6:45. Totally get it. But I just want you to understand how important I think it is that you get the right agent. And I wanted to make sure I called first. So something like that. So you're going to use empathy, which is if I were you, I would be frustrated too. If I were you, I'd be excited too, whatever it is. Now, if you don't have to actually be frustrated or excited about it, but you have to say, if I were you, I would be. I'm telling you, especially with for sale by owners or expireds that are going to get frustrated with you and that are going to. So Trevor, have you ever heard from one of them of like, you're the 50th agent to call me today?
A few of them have been like, I've already talked to 20 of you today. And I'll be like, oh, great. I'll hopefully be the last one. And then I'll carry on with my conversation.
Well, so I love Rick's response on these, so I don't know which one you're going to use, but will you play with it for a minute? Sure. All right. So you role play it with Rick of you're the 20th one or whatever to call.
To Rick?
Yeah.
I'm the person he's calling?
Yeah, you're the FISBO or expired.
Okay.
Or whatever.
I've heard from like 30 agents already today, and it's only 11 a.m.
Gosh, I know, Trevor, you know what? You kick a bush, a realtor runs out. Totally understand where you're coming from. The reality is us who are up doing this early and making this happen right now is the ones that's actually going to get you the most for your property, get the home sold in the least amount of time for the most amount of money. What works best for you, 5 or 6?
I really don't know about meeting right now.
I'm kind of just not sure how I feel about selling anymore. No, if I were you, I'd feel the same way. So share with me, ultimately, what are you trying to accomplish with the sale of the property in the first place?
Well, I just kind of wanted to use the equity in the house, kind of go with something maybe a little nicer.
Oh, nice. Wow, man, if I were you, I'd do the same thing, man. With interest rates being historic low right now, what if we could leverage the equity out of this home into a property that'll grow faster in value, and with the interest rates being historic low, maybe improve your payment and get you what you want in the time you want? Won't that be great?
That actually sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm going to cut it off there. So now notice though what he did was he was repeating and affirming and using the empathy. Hey, if I were you, I would feel that way. I'd want to do that too, whatever. So now remember, that's only the first part of this. That's how we're going to connect with people is we have to be repeating and affirming and empathizing and just, hey, yep, I would be frustrated too. And what you'll find when you do that, And I knew you were gonna do he does I know you kick a bush and a realtor runs out, right?
Falls out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because usually what happens is, especially if they are frustrated at that point, when you go, you kick a bush and the realtor runs out, they're like, yeah, seriously, that's what it feels like. But here's what happens. All of a sudden they go from being your adversary to, yeah, you're my buddy, like right on. Like, because they're like, you get it. Do you understand my frustration? See, and so the other one that I'll throw in with that sometimes too is, I know next thing you know, they're going to be flying over your house in a helicopter dropping like, this is why you should list your house with me pamphlets. And they usually will laugh at that too. Be like, I know, probably wouldn't surprise me. And I'm like, yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? So like, get on their side, empathize with them. Yeah, that would be frustrating to get a call. Now, I by the way, I got to make sure since this is being recorded, I am not recommending you to call at 6:45. The law says 8 a.m. So even though we're just talking about that, what I don't want is somebody to go back and get in trouble and be like, well, Russ in class said call at 6:45. I'm just saying that the people who list a lot of properties do that. All right. Number 2.
Well, I was just saying, when you said the early bird gets the worm, I would have come back and said, yeah, the second mouse gets the cheese.
Right. All right. So first thing that's got to happen is you got to connect. And so we've got to the way we're going to connect with people is repeating and affirming. We're going to empathize. So think of it this way, even. I like to think of it as this like horribly drawn figure 8 on the side here. But that what we're going to do is this is where we're going to close and ask for the appointment. But in between, we keep asking questions. So in essence, what we're going to do is we're going to ask a question. We're going to then repeat and affirm, empathize, and then ask another question. Repeat and affirm, empathize, ask another question. That's the process of this, okay? And you want to do that. And what Jesse was talking about, the reason I stayed on the phone that long with that guy was because I just kept going in this figure 8 with him. I just kept asking, and he would ask me, well, I don't know, no other agent wants to come meet with me. They're fine with just sending me properties. Why do you want to meet with me? And I said, that's the very reason we need to get together, is because I want to show you what makes me different. I need to find out what it is you're looking for in a home. And he still said no. So then I said, well, have you got any property? Because this guy's an investor. I said, you got any properties you're working on right now as flips? Yeah, great. What I want to do is meet you out at this property so that I can see what kind of things you do on a property. I want to get a feel for what you're comfortable with, what you're not. So what works better, afternoons or evenings? Like, I just kept doing that. And then he was like, I just don't understand why you would want to do that. No other agent wants to spend that time. Oh, and then here was the funny part. So I'm pretending to be Jesse, and you can see his picture up there. How old do you guys think Jesse is? Okay. So the guy says to me, now I'm pretending to be Jesse. The guy says to me, how long have you been doing real estate? And I go, 26 years. And then when we set the appointment, Jesse's like I'm not even 26. Like, what's going to happen when I get there on this appointment? And the guy's like, I thought you said you've been in this for 26 years. And I said, just tell him you thought he asked how old you were. I don't know. But
I lived in the house since I was a baby.
Yeah, that's right. I've been living in houses forever. So anyway, the point being, what I just kept doing is the whole time I was repeating and affirming. It's empathizing. Yep, I understand. I get it. When he said to me, no other agents want to do that. I know, I totally get it. Most agents aren't like that. I understand why you're asking that question. You just have to keep doing that, because that's what then has them feel like they like you. I mean, stop and pay attention. Typically, Tony Robbins says that we like people who are like us or who we want to be. So if you want to get a connection with somebody, you need to be like them or who they want to be. See, that's how you get it, is people like people who are like them or who they want to be. So you just either need to be like them or who they want to be, and then they'll like you. That's why we empathize. That's why we're going to be saying to them, I totally understand. I get your frustration. I know what you mean. I would be frustrated too. I understand why you think it would be a waste of your time. I totally get it. Like, you just have to keep doing that over and over again to get this connection. All right. Once we've done that, the next thing that Jesse talked about on there that I did is create value. You have to create value. Now, another book
that I would recommend you read if you have not is it's by Thomas Freeze, and it's spelled Freeze with an S though, not no Z. And it's The Secrets of Question-Based Selling. So The Secrets of Question-Based Selling, Thomas Freeze. In that book, he talks about this, but he calls it, he doesn't call it create value. I like to say it is create value. He calls it make them curious. He says, you've got to make people curious. If you make people curious, they're going to want to talk to you. They're going to see, nobody will meet with you if they don't see any value. Nobody will call you back if they're not curious or see the value of calling you back. So you got to create some value. So how do we do that? In that book, The Secrets of Question-Based Selling, he talks about an agent that he was working with, that Thomas Freeze was working with. This guy was a real estate agent that would, which the whole book's just basically just selling in general, but this one section happens to be about a real estate agent. And he says that this guy was calling farmers, seeing if he could get them to sell their farm, basically, and then he would get a developer to buy it to develop the property. And he was sitting there with the guy, and the guy was making phone calls, and the guy got an answering machine, and this is the message he left, which is similar to probably messages you leave when you leave a voicemail. Hi, this is so-and-so with XYZ Real Estate. I was calling about your land to see if you were interested in selling it because I've got builders who are interested in buying and would love to buy your property. So if you're interested in selling, give me a call back. My phone number is blah, 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 blah. Click. Like, is that not what if you were going to leave a voicemail, probably it sounds something like that. Nobody wants to tell the truth.
Yes.
That's typically what it looks like. Okay. So he said that when he hung up, he said, there's no value in that. They're not, like, if you think about, stop and think for a minute about when you get calls from salespeople that leave a voice message, how long do you listen to the message before you delete it? For real? How long? Yeah, for me, as soon as they say, this is Marriott calling because you won, but like, click, delete. Yeah. So, but stop and think about it, because here's what you hear. Hi, this is blah, 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 delete. Like,
Blah, 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 blah.
yeah, and you hear that and then you hit delete, right? That's what they do. So he said, you got to make them curious. If they're not curious, they're not calling you back. So he said, let me do the next one. So they call the next farmer they call, they get an answering machine. When they, and here's the message that this Thomas Freeze left. Hi, whatever the guy's name was. This is Joe with XYZ Real Estate Company. I'm holding a copy of your tax records in my hand, and I've got a question for you. Give me a call back. What do you think the likelihood is they're going to call you back from that?
They're going to worry.
Because they're going to be curious of like,
Curious.
why are you holding? Yeah, why do you
Yeah.
have my tax records? So Trevor, if you want to get for sale by owners to call you back, print off a copy of their tax records, and then when you call, leave a message. Hey, this is Trevor with Century 21. I've got a copy of your tax records in my hand, and I've got a question for you. Give me a call back. MLS. So, but here's the thing, they're going to call back because they're going to be curious of, see, typically what an agent does is for a for sale by owner is, hi, this is Russ with Century 21. Notice you got your home for sale by owner. I've got some strategies that can help you get it sold for more in less time. And I got tons of buyers. Give me a call back. And they're going to go, but you call them and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. for sale by owner, I've got your tax records in my hand. And I got some questions for you. Give me a call back. They're probably going to be like, why are you got my tax records in your hand?
I actually did get one call back from an expired that I left a message at, but it's because I said I had information for the property and I realized that was the only one that I sent it about. It's like, oh, I have information regarding like prices for your property, like in that area, so can you call back? Right. And they actually did call me back.
Yeah, so you got to do, if it doesn't make the people curious or doesn't create value. Now, the same thing when you get them on the phone. Now, so let's go back to that scenario that we talked about with Jesse last week. Part of what I did with that guy to get him to agree to an appointment with me is that because the whole time I was on the call, I just kept thinking about this over and over and over again. How do I create value? How do I create? See, every time I asked for an appointment and he said no, all he was telling me is I didn't create enough value. So then I would just go, okay, I got to try a different angle to create some value. And so I would try a different angle. Now, so part of what I said to him was that I think part of what got the appointment was what I said to the guy is, now remember, I was pretending to be Jesse on the phone, and we talked yesterday that Jesse's out doing 1,000 door drops every day. So I said to the guy, hey, prior to COVID, I was out knocking on doors. Now, Jesse wasn't licensed prior to COVID, but I said prior to COVID, I would go out knocking on doors. Since COVID hit, now I'm pretending to be Jesse. I said, I'm doing 1,000 door drops a week. I'm going to 1,000 doors every single week. And I said, I come across properties that could be good deals for you. Because he had already said the good deals aren't on the MLS, which I would agree. They're typically not. So I just said to him, you don't think I come across some good deals as I'm out doing that? I notice properties. And I brought up to him, I said, I feel like I've developed a little bit of a sixth sense that I can look at a house and know this house is in trouble. They need to sell, and this could be a good flip property. And I said, so I just need to sit down with you though, because I need to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, what it is you want in a home, and then I'll be able to find those for you. See, what I believe that's part of what finally got him to agree to an appointment was because I created the value of, hey, I'm going to have a guy out just every day searching for properties for me. And to some extent, you know, I said to Jesse, do you ever come across some that you can tell they're vacant or they are beat up or whatever? And of course you do. You're going to notice some of those. So, well, hey, at that point, we just can go find it. See, you got to create value to the person. So part of what we're doing up here in this connected report is we're asking questions enough and repeating and affirming to figure out, how do I create the value? What is it that they're expecting that I could say that will create the value or make them curious to want to meet? Okay. So ultimately, here's what I would say. Every time you don't set an appointment on a phone call or a door knock, it is 100% because you didn't create value. Because if they saw the value, they would say, yeah, let's meet. So you got to figure out what are the things I could do or say to create value to make them curious to want to meet. Okay. And then number three is close. You have to close. And I already told you this, but you're typically probably going to have to close 3 to 5 times before they'll say yes. So if you are giving up after, one time, you're probably not going to set very many appointments. See, that's what I learned. That's where I learned this when I said to you guys that I went from doing 50 contacts a year to then the next year prospecting half as much, but doubling my income. And then the next year, doubling my income again. And then the next year, almost doubling it again, was doing nothing but what we're talking about here. The way that it happened was I just would, when I got somebody on the phone or I get them at the door, I'm going to keep going on trying to create the value. Now, Jesse, did I, on those 3 days, did I get hung up on ever once? Not even once, right? Are you not? He must be talking to somebody. I got hung up on plenty. Like most of the calls that I did down there, people were hanging up on me. I got hung up on a lot. Like honestly, it was more than what I would say I normally get hung up on. People would answer the phone. I'd say, "Hey, this is Russ with Century 21." Click. I mean, so but here's the thing. I always, for me, the reason I bring that up is what you want to do is after every phone call that you make, you want to stop and evaluate. Did I connect? Did I create value? Did I close? And what was happening was when people were hanging up on me is I didn't connect. Now, granted, they didn't give me a chance to, meaning I got one today that, do you guys ever get the phone call from the guy that's calling from the sheriff's department to get you to give money? I swear it's the same guy that has called me for like 10 years too. It's always a really deep voice. I'm like, but today, I basically did the same thing to him today. Like I sat and listened to his spiel long enough till he took a breath. And I was like, nope, I already got somebody I'm giving my money to. Thanks though, bye, click. But part of it is, I would say he didn't connect with me in that first few minutes. He jumped. Part of, I guess what I'm saying is he sounded like a telemarketer. And you don't want to sound like a telemarketer. If you sound like that, they're going to hang up on you. That's why you got to throw in stuff like what Rick said there. If I know you could kick a bush and the realtor runs out. Nobody else is saying it. So when you do that, that's not going to be on a script. And you notice when he said it, he didn't sound like he was following a script. I know you kick a bush and a realtor runs out. It's frustrating, right? See, ultimately, like have the script, but what you want to do is you want to be able to vary from the script a little bit by throwing some of those things in. Or like I said, yeah, next thing you know, they're flying over your house in a helicopter. Like by throwing that stuff in, they know you're not following the script at that point, and they'll be more willing to talk to you. If you sound like a telemarketer, which most of you do, I promise you, most of you get on the phone and you sound like a telemarketer, they're not interested in talking to you. In fact, where I learned this one actually was the best actually was from Rick too, was he was making recruiting calls down in my office one day. And he got on the phone and I don't remember what the guy's name was, but Lester Lemon. Oh, apparently yours.
Easy one to remember.
So, but here's what happened. Rick calls, the guy, now remember, he's recruiting. The agent answers the phone and he goes, what, you remember what he said?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, this is what he did. This is what he did. Ring, ring. The guy answers the phone. He goes, is this Lester? Yeah. Lester, Rick Bentley, Century 21. How you doing? Now, when I say it like that, what does it sound like?
Like you talk to a friend.
Yeah. So he sits and has the conversation, sets the appointment, hangs up, and I said, who is that? And he goes, Lester Lemon. And I'm like, yeah, but who is that? I don't know. Just some guy. But so the point being, like, part of it is you got, by him doing that, I guarantee you what happened is in the guy's mind, when Rick goes, Lester, Rick Bentley, Century 21, the guy was like,
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, how do I know Rick?
I know Rick. Where do I know Rick from?
But yeah, where do I know Rick from? But they don't want to be like, who? Instead, they go, hey, and he did. He was like, hey, Rick, how's it going? See, so to some extent, like that's, a telemarketer's not going to call you and be like, Trevor, Russ Orchard, Century 21, how you doing?
Good.
Like you're inside going, yeah, I must know the guy.
Yeah.
So to some extent, that's what I mean. Don't sound like a telemarketer, okay? But after every call, pay attention. Did I connect? Did I create value? See, for me, I know if I ever make a phone call and I don't set the appointment, I know it's because I didn't create value. Now, they're not always going to let you. Like I said, you're going to have people that hang up on you. It's going to happen. But then you've got to close. Now, in terms of closing, let's do this. Let me go to another page here. There's only 5 ways in the English language you can close, and they are this. What time? Which time? How soon? When? And where? Those are the only 5 ways in the English language that you can close. What time? Which time? How soon? When? And where? If you're saying anything besides that, you're not closing. Now, there are variations on it, meaning I will say to people, and you heard me say this one, what works better, afternoons or evenings? Well, if I say to you what works better, afternoons or evenings, what I'm really saying is which time. So it's just a different variation, but I'm essentially saying, I mean, I could say it as, hey, which time works better, afternoons or evenings? I mean, that's what you're saying. So if you say anything besides that, you're not closing. If you say to somebody, can we get together? If I said, can we get together? Now, so we're going to have a discussion now for a minute on language for a sec, okay? If I say to you, can we get together? What am I really asking?
Yes or no?
But, well, yes, it is a yes or no, but what am I really asking? When I say, can we get together? What does can mean?
Like, are they physically able to do it?
Yeah, it means, are you able to do it? And what's the answer to that, by the way? Well, no. Are they able to do it?
They're
So-
alive, right? So,
Yeah. So can they get together? They can. The only question is, yeah, the only question is what time, which time, how soon, when, where, right? It's not can. Like me, if you had a buddy or a significant other or whatever, we're going to go to a movie and you knew you were going to go to a movie, you just hadn't established the time yet, you wouldn't call up and say, can we go to a movie? Because they would be, well, yeah, we already decided we were going to a movie. So the only question is, you would call and ask what? Yeah, what time? Which movie do you want to go see? You know, what time are we going to go? How soon did you want to go? That's the only way. How about this one? Is there a time we could get together? What is it? What is that asking? Same thing. It's just asking, does it exist? And the answer to that question is yes, it exists. The only question is which time, what time, which time, how soon, when, or where. See, now watch how overt this one is. Why don't we get together? Now, watch this. Watch what happens. Swen, why don't you give me some money?
I don't want to give you money.
Okay, Chad, why don't you give me some money? Okay. Okay. Why don't you give me some money?
I don't know yet, no.
Okay, Mary, why don't you give me some money? Okay. Trevor, why don't you give me some money?
I will do.
And remind me, Mary, why don't you give me some money? Okay. How much money did I just get?
Zero.
And what did I get?
A lot of notice.
But what, when I asked you, why don't you give me some money, what did you tell me?
Why not?
Yeah, you told me the reason you weren't gonna give me money. Guess what they tell you when you say, why don't we get together, Slim?
The reason why we don't get
They're gonna tell you the reason you're not gonna get together. So don't ever ask, why don't we get together? Because people will answer the question that's in front of them. So now I'm gonna do an exercise with you guys to prove this to you. If you have heard me do it before, don't participate. But I want the people on Zoom to participate as well, okay? So everybody on Zoom's got to type in the chat box or unmute, one of the two, the answer to this question. Now, if you've heard me though, don't ruin it. So don't say anything. If you wanted to know what was going on a mile down the road, would you ask a giraffe or a turtle? So if you wanted to know what was going on a mile down the road, now if you've heard it before, don't answer, but the rest of you answer. So a giraffe? Have you heard me say it before? No. Okay, who are you gonna answer? You guys on Zoom, put it in the chat box.
Probably,
Thanks, Joshua.
probably a giraffe.
Okay.
I know. I feel
Okay. Giraffe,
Being a contrarian turtle.
turtle,
No, I think giraffe. I would say turtle.
turtle. Okay. What did we get on Zoom? Let's see what people said up here.
Giraffe doesn't seem to mind either. I would say giraffe gets see that.
Yes, he remembers.
Turtle.
Okay. So, okay, now tell me why. So hold on, tell me why you're gonna ask the giraffe. Because all you guys said, except for Tim, said the giraffe. So why a giraffe? Okay, okay, good. So why a turtle?
Because the old story of the turtle and the hare will get there eventually.
Okay. So anybody on Zoom, do you guys have any different reason besides what they've said? If you do, unmute. If not, and
Turtle's gonna have more details on what's going on. He's gonna
Okay.
tell us more on the way down.
so you guys just proved the point that I was trying to make. Right? For real. If you ask a giraffe or a turtle what was going on a mile down the road, what's going to happen?
They're gonna say some animal noise and.
Yeah. So why did you? Why?
Because you only gave us two choices.
I know, right?
We answered the question you were from.
See, that's the point. Notice what happens. The way our brain works is like a computer. We're going to talk a lot more about this on Monday, Tuesday next week. The way that your brain works is like a computer. It wants to answer the question that's in front of it. See, notice nobody said to me, I'm not talking to an animal because it's not, if I want to know what's going on a mile down the road, an animal is not going to tell me, even if it knows. So notice that none of you said that. And the reason is because the way our brain works is if it's given choices, it wants to choose. See, part of where I learned this was from my wife, actually, is really good with this with my kids. She would, if she wanted them to do a chore, she would say, do you want to clean your room or do you want to go out and scoop the poop from the dog in the backyard? See, either she's good with either choice. It's just which one do you want to choose? And then the kids will weigh it out and go, well, I'll go with this one. See, people like options. That's why you'll hear me say over and over and over again, if I'm prospecting, what works better, afternoons or evenings? Because I want them to answer the question, which works better, afternoons or evenings? Now, I'm not saying they're never going to tell you no, because they will, but you're more likely to get it by saying what works better, afternoons or evenings? Well, evenings, but I'm not sure I want to meet. Okay, well, I understand. If I were you, I wouldn't necessarily want to meet either, but does 6 or 7 work better? See, see, I'm just going to empathize. I get what you're coming from, but would 6 or 7 work better? Well, probably 6, but I mean, like at the end of the day, they want to answer the question. Okay. All right. I've had so much fun with that. I want to do another one. All right. What questions? Where are we at? I'm trying to figure out where to cut this off or if I should keep going. What questions do you have?
How do you get so quick with all those answers though? I need practice.
Role play.
Role playing, you know?
Yep, role play. Yeah, it's just practice. All right. Let's do this. This is probably a decent place. Nah, what the heck? Let's do it. I'm gonna do one more. We are going to pretend for a minute that these are my business cards, but they're not. Yeah, let's use crystals. And you want to use mine? Oh, you got it. All right. Here's the other thing. I had mentioned to you guys that power comes out of telling the truth, and that telling the truth is an active and a constructive process. It is easy to get people to lie to you. It is hard to get people to tell the truth. And so what I'm going to give you guys a demonstration of that here right now. Okay. So let me show you what this looks like. So we're going to pretend these are my business cards. Oh, hi, my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. We just listed your neighbor's home down the street. And I just wanted to see if you'd do me a favor.
Okay. What's that?
If you had a real estate need, or you heard of somebody that had one, would you give me a call?
I don't know. I don't know you. I have a brother that's a real estate agent.
Oh, do you? Okay. Well, if you got to know me, would you be willing to refer people to me? Maybe not you. You could use your brother, but would you be willing to refer other people to me?
I guess pretty much.
Okay. Here's my card. Hold on to it. And if you hear of anybody, let me know. Okay. So, hi, my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. I just wanted to see, I'm a local realtor. Just want to see if you do me a favor.
What's that?
I just wanted to see if you'd be willing to hold on to my card. If you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling real estate anywhere, give me a call.
Well,
I see you already have one.
I do.
My name's Russ. I'm with Century 21, and I wanted to see if you'd be willing to do me a favor.
I don't know what's the favor.
I just hold on to my business card. If you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling anywhere, give me a call.
Why would I have you over somebody else?
But great question. So what I would want to do is just give you that opportunity to get to know me, and then you'll see that I do a great job, and you can refer me to people.
Any good?
I'm the best. There's nobody better.
I'll keep it.
Okay, good. Hi, my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. I just wanted to see if you do me a favor. Just hold on to my business card, and if you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling real estate anywhere, give me a call. And we can help you. Hi, my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. Depends on what. Oh, just hold on to my business card. If you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling real estate anywhere, give me a call.
Anywhere?
Yep. Anywhere.
Anywhere.
Okay. Okay. Hi, my name's Russ. Would you do me a favor and just hold on to my business card? If you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling anywhere, give me a call. I can help. Awesome. See, prospecting is so easy.
Yeah. Look at all those contacts.
Look at all these.
Hello.
Hey, for real. If you have a real estate need, or you can then call me and let me know about it. Well, or if you, sorry, you would have a brother that was an agent, but if you heard of something, you're gonna call me and let me know. For real.
I would have to, I don't know. Realistically, I don't know. I don't know. You just might be too things.
Okay, well, but if you got to know me, and you like me,
If I got to know you and I liked you and feel like you're an honor.
for real. For real.
For real, potentially.
Maybe potentially.
I'm just not quite sure yet.
Oh, okay, good. I'll be back. Okay, for real. If you have a real estate need, you're gonna call me and let me know.
Comes up in the next couple minutes, I probably will, because I have your card.
What if it's tomorrow?
I probably will.
Hey Russ,
Yeah.
we can't see what you're doing.
Can you hear me though?
Yeah, I didn't know
Okay.
if you wanted us to see it.
Oh, no, you don't need to see me. Just as long as you can hear me, you're good.
Yeah, okay.
All I'm doing is standing in front of them. For real. Yeah.
Possibly, because you said you were the best, I might want you to prove that to me.
Okay. But if I do, you'll use it. For real. For real.
There's a possibility.
That's good enough. Mary, for real. If you have a real estate need, you're gonna call me and let me do it.
think if you kept up with me.
Okay, I'll be back. I'll keep up. Trevor, for real.
For real.
For real.
Okay.
Here, maybe here. I got an idea, actually, Jesse. Here's what I'm gonna do. Sorry. I'm gonna make it so you guys can see here. Look at this. Give me 1 second here.
Need a little drone that follows you around.
I know, I did. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's right here. I'm gonna see if I can get it. I might not be able to.
Gonna hand me your iPad and hold it for you.
No, I was just gonna. Give me 1 second here. I'll get it. Close. I'm almost there. There we go. Now you kind of be able to see something. All right, where was I? Who was I?
Thank you.
All right,
For real.
for real.
For real what?
If you have a real estate need or you hear of somebody, you're gonna call me and let me help. For real.
Probably not, for real.
Okay, what?
I don't, why should I?
Well, because I'll take really good care of the people you refer to me, and you know they'll be happy. They'll thank you for referring.
Can you promise?
Yes. Okay. For real.
Possibly. If I have somebody. Yes.
If you do, you will.
Yes.
For real.
Yes.
Okay. For real.
I don't know, you're pretty persistent, so maybe.
Okay. For real.
Sure.
For real.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. For real.
What do I need to say to you to make you go away?
Right?
Sell your home.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So you're home. You might say.
I like that approach. You're straight on. So
For real.
You real on it.
Mary, for real. For real.
Possibly.
Okay, well, what do you mean possible?
You just want to be persistent. Come back.
Okay, I'll be back. For real. For real. Yeah. Okay. For real.
Yeah.
For real.
Yes, no.
Oh my God. When? For real.
For real, you show me.
For real.
For real.
For real.
20 push-ups and you show me how tough you are.
I already did my push-ups. For real. If you hear of somebody today that says to you, I
Yes.
want to sell my house.
You're on top of my brain right now because for real estate.
Okay, tomorrow, somebody tomorrow says to you, I want to sell my house. You can call me and go, hey Russ, there's a person who wants to sell. For real.
For real, my brain's on like a 7-day clock, so for the next 7 days, I'm on yours.
Okay, so what about the next week? For real.
You better come back.
Okay. Okay, for real.
Actually, you know, I think Mary wants to sell.
Okay, good. I'll get back with you. That's awesome. Kim, for
Yeah.
real.
Let's set something up so I can either get something done or get you out of my.
Okay, so for real.
Yeah.
For real.
For real.
Okay. Mary, for real. For real. For
I
real.
need
For real.
to see
For real.
what you've done in the past, so that if I'm putting my name on you.
Okay.
She's tough.
For real. Wait, what did you say?
That
was kind of a guess.
I have a lot.
What did you say?
I said I need to see your past and what transactions you've
Oh,
done to see
okay.
if I'm gonna put my name in referring you.
Okay, so if I bring that to you, you will. For real.
Not 100%, but I would like to
Okay,
see it.
why?
before.
Why not 100%?
Because I can't promise something I don't know.
For real.
Of course, for real.
For real.
Yeah.
Like real life.
Yes.
Well, I refer to you.
Yes.
No.
Why?
Because I'm the best realtor I know.
Thank you. Appreciate you telling me the truth. For real.
Still, yeah.
Okay. What? For real.
Sure.
Yeah, for real.
No.
Why?
So I'm gonna say it myself.
Okay, I'll be back. For real.
No, because you become a pain in the butt.
So
but if I quit being a pain in the butt, for real. For real.
Because I don't know anyone else really.
Okay. All right, for real. For
Now
real.
I don't know if I should be saying that I'm a real estate agent.
Well, for real.
Well, no,
Why?
because I'm a real estate agent.
So are we regular?
So-
people?
Right, yeah,
Real
what
estate
I do,
agents,
yeah.
So
like,
why
what
did you
are we?
lie to me?
Oh,
To
nice.
get you
approach.
What?
I was wondering what I was gonna
Wait,
say.
wait, wait. Hang on, wait, hear what she said. Why?
to get you to leave me alone, or
Oh.
to just end the conversation.
Okay. For real.
No trespassing, no soliciting.
For real. If you have a real estate need, you're gonna refer them to me. For real.
Yes, I have this card and I'll
Okay,
give
I'll
this
be
one
back.
card.
Swim.
I
For
don't
real.
know.
For real, I already lost your card.
Well, there's no. For real. You're gonna refer people to me.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be back.
Oh my
For
God.
real. For
Let's
real.
get this a little redundant.
I know, so for real.
No, you're too pushy.
So because I'm too pushy, you're not.
Yeah.
I'll be back. For real.
I too have recently become a real
Don't
estate
bother.
agent.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
so,
whoa, whoa,
you
whoa,
know,
whoa, whoa, wait.
I
What?
just graduated
Wait.
2 hours ago, right before, you left. I took the class. I
Well,
passed.
no, wait. It hasn't been 2 hours.
Well, I don't know. You keep coming through.
It's only been 2 minutes.
When did you get your license?
Right now,
No, for real.
beginning of April.
So why did you lie to me?
I don't know.
Okay, swim. For real.
Russ,
I
it's your
don't
lucky
know.
day
How
at
is it
work.
not talking to
I already
you?
gave out your card to somebody else. They might call you on them.
Okay, but for real, if you hear,
I referred you.
if you hear somebody thinking of buying or selling real estate, for real, you're gonna refer.
Yep, I did it. Yep.
I appreciate you doing it, but you're, okay,
Can you refer to me instead?
for real, Tim.
Too late, you didn't ask me for real.
For real.
I had said yes previously, and then you just keep coming.
I know, because I wanna know, for real, are you gonna do it? For real.
Well, I did say yes. You think I was telling tales?
Yes,
Tales?
I do think so.
Well, I wasn't, so now.
I'll be back.
No.
For real.
Yeah, afternoon or evenings.
Whatever works best. For real though, if you hear of somebody in the next couple weeks that says, I want to sell my house, I will pay a 10% commission, you're gonna call me.
You're,
For real.
what sets
For
you,
real.
for what sets you apart for real?
For real.
I'm making that.
If you hear somebody that says, I'll pay you a 10% commission if you can get my house sold, you're gonna call me and let me go. For real. For real. For real.
I'm trying to find an angle, but I get some of that.
Like what?
I don't know.
All right, I'll come back.
Don't bother.
Sweat, for real.
For real, I'm an agent. I got myself covered.
So, whoa, wait a minute. When did that happen?
2 months ago.
So hold on, so why did you lie to me?
I just want to see how persistent you are.
Oh, I appreciate that, thank you. For real.
Yeah, let's just do this.
Okay, great. No, for real, in real life. If you hear somebody thinking of buying or selling, you're gonna call me.
No, I will not. No
Why?
way. No way.
Why?
I might call you for assistance.
Okay.
I might call you for assistance.
Okay,
And
so
rely on your experience, but other than that.
then you're gonna do what? What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna muscle through it and do it myself.
So wait, every one of you guys told me that you were gonna refer people to me, and now I find out every one of you is an agent.
Well, you threw in that 10% thing. I thought I was like a customer, not an agent.
Do you remember what I said we were gonna work on right now?
Yeah.
What did I say?
You can make anybody lie if you want.
How easy it is to get people to lie and hard it is to get them to tell the truth. Because maybe if I would have come to you guys and said, for real, if I said for real, would have you not lied to? But so now, for real,
I thought you were just being.
okay, good. No, so hang on, yeah, wait, I'm gonna come to that. So let's do it right now.
Lying.
So hold on. For real, what did you think was happening?
I didn't know what.
Sort of play acting.
Yeah, you thought we were role playing.
Right.
Guess what consumers think when you're prospecting?
You're
Yeah, you want to pretend to be an agent? I'll pretend to be a buyer. Yeah, I'll meet with you next week. Like, no, but so I want to hear from all of you. Like, why did you lie to me for real?
For real, I thought we were role playing for like, I don't know, 45 for real questions.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, maybe next time I'll say for real.
I have to.
So okay, for real. Why did you lie to me?
It's just easier.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's part of what I wanted to hear. Notice what she said. So guess why people are going to lie to you?
To get you off the door.
That's right. To get you off the phone, to get rid of you, whatever it is. So like, just know the hardest part of this business is to get people to tell you the truth. So we talked about pre-qualifying on the first day. That's why we need to be pre-qualifying people and asking them questions once we send an appointment to find out. And when I say pre-qualifying, as a reminder, I don't mean like how much money do you make and how long you've been. I just mean like to find the motivation. Do they really want to meet with you, or are they like, so now don't do it the way I did though. Like don't do for real. No, for real. You really gonna meet with me? Like don't do that on your calls. But notice how easy it is to get people to lie to you and how hard it was to get you to tell me the truth. Even with me begging for you to tell me the truth. But because you kind of got into the mindset, oh, we're role playing.
I think it's really fascinating in this setting that even when you had some of you, or maybe even most of you, oh no, I'm a realtor, I'm going to keep it. How some of you still didn't hear that. You still kept in the role play. That's how.
Yeah, meaning
Yes.
what he's saying is, notice once Trevor said he's an agent, I quit going to him.
Yeah, he give you the whole playing field, and half of you are like, no, I do it for real. Yeah, well, yeah. No,
Yeah,
you
that's why I
wouldn't.
asked like real life. I was like,
Yes.
for real. So that's why I was finally getting. I was like, real life.
Yeah.
Heck no.
Now, to some extent, I set you up. Meaning I set you up, and part of how I set you up,
Yeah, definitely
well,
was-
how I set you up was by me saying, let's pretend this is my real estate card. Which then, in essence, what I did is created in you, we're gonna pretend everything. Even though I was saying to you all along, for real. So here's the point. People are gonna lie to you when you're in this business. Just understand, the challenge we have is getting people to tell the truth. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But so here's what we're gonna do tomorrow. So tomorrow, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start the class tomorrow we're gonna make a list on, I was gonna say on the board, but I'll do it on my iPad. Of all the possible ways that you can prospect. So we'll talk about for sale by owners, expired. I shouldn't give you the list. You guys are going to give me the list, and we'll talk about ways that you can prospect, and then I'm going to give you ideas of how to approach it using the connect, create value, and close, so that you can set more appointments. Make sense? Okay. Well, thank you for being here. You guys that are on Zoom, if you have not yet put in your name and office in the chat box, please do that. And hopefully you guys noticed, I probably should say this at the start of the class, not at the end, but for Zoom, if I'm not keeping an eye on the chat box, so somebody will have to unmute and tell me when somebody's got a question. So anyway, okay. So same time tomorrow, same link, all that, and we're just going to continue talking about how to get appointments. So, okay. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Rick, yesterday
Yes, sir.
we were gonna talk, and
Thank you, Russ.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jesse. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
kept looking for you and stuff. Well, I understand
So
that.
I've been across
300 almost 70 people in the office.
Somebody put in the chat box, for real, great class.
Yeah, I've been wondering, I got 5 or 10 minutes today.
Nice, that's
How long
so
were you here?
I've been at annual disposal, so.
Yeah,
just getting some rest.
Still not.
Yeah, just right after, say maybe.
How's it going, Russ?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
You like that?
There's like
Good.
scripts and stuff.
I like being
Did I
an idiot for a while, too longer than it should have taken.
Yeah.